What are the best picks in each round of your Dynasty startup drafts? We're talking about that in today's video. As always, if you enjoy Dynasty content and you enjoy our content, make sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 1,200 subscribers. Help us get there. And of course, join our Discord. Link is in the description. It's free. You can post trade questions. You can get your team reviewed. You can join our live shows where you get into live rookie drafts, live startup mock drafts, and even real money listener leagues that will be starting up in just a couple of weeks. So join the Discord. We are going through the first 12 rounds 2 through 12 in a Dynasty startup, and this is according to current ADP. This is February 20th that we're recording this. We will be putting out a video that goes over the picks that I don't like in each round. In terms of where you have to take them, this is positive video. We're looking at picks that I like from rounds 2 through 12 in each round. What is my favorite pick in terms of the value? So starting off with round 2, because round 1, everyone's really, obviously the first few rounds, everyone's really good, but round 1 isn't easy. You can't really argue against any of the guys going in round 1. Round 2, I'm a fan of getting Caleb Williams. He's current ADP of where we stand in the middle of February. It's going to change, and I plan to put these out multiple times through the offseason just to kind of see how ADP is changing. But right now, he's at the end of the second round, 210 to even the last pick of the second round to the 212. And to me, that's just really, really good value for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, when he was, when he got entered, when he was drafted, he was being drafted in the first round last year in startup drafts. Now, did he have a disappointing season? Absolutely. Was it horrendous? No, the guy still threw for over 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. Now you can argue how he got there, a little bit of garbage time and stuff like that, and that's fine. I get it. But also, we've seen quarterbacks even in garbage time just suck, right? So, I don't think we're doubting Caleb Williams' talent. Is there some things he needs to learn, like not to hold on to the ball too long? Absolutely. But the talent is all there for him to put it all together. And in my opinion, especially with Ben Johnson there, you still have DJ Moore, you still have Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, whatever other weapons they bring in, whether it's re-signing Keenan Allen or taking another weapon somewhere. He has a lot of weapons on the team. Improve the offensive line. You have Ben Johnson as your head coach now. And Ben Johnson was doing really good work with Jared Goff. And I like Jared Goff. He's a good quarterback in this league. Caleb Williams has more tools than Jared Goff does. He just does. So I'm a fan of still taking Caleb Williams here at the end of the second round. I think he's kind of the end of a tier of guys where I generally want to draft guys near the end of the tier rather than the top, right? Because I feel like I'm getting more value. And Caleb Williams, to me, still has a lot of potential, and he can run the ball. Now, is he going to run for over 500 yards like he did last year? I don't think so, but could he get he ran for 490, not over 500, just under 500. But he could also get 3, 4, 5 touchdowns on the ground, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had 0 last year. So Caleb Williams, I really like him at the end of the second round. In the third round, Kyren Williams, who's going at the very end of the third round at the 312. So that means sometimes you'll even get them in the fourth round, early fourth round, of course. And, I kind of get why Kyron's going here because obviously running backs, depending on your league settings, running backs aren't quite as valuable as the other positions, as quarterbacks and wide receivers in particular, right? So I get that. That's going to bring running backs down just a little bit, right? Even the top tier, the 2 top running backs in Gibbs and Bijan, the 2 top receivers are going to go over the 2 top running backs because of positional value. But also, if you plan on taking a running back in this range, Kyron's probably my favorite guy here. Why? And I'm just asking myself, why should Kyron be going half a round to, maybe even a full round later than guys like Breece Hall and Achane? Why? I get that Kyron was a 5th round pick. I get that he had a bad rookie year. Kyren Williams has been the best running back over the last 2 years. I'm pretty sure. I didn't go into it completely, but he's been the RB7 each of the last 2 years. He was the RB2 in points per game in 2023. I don't think anyone has finished top 7 in back-to-back years in total points. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Kyron's the only guy to do that, and he's just been awesome. He's probably been the best running back over the last 2 years, and the guy scored like over 30 touchdowns. So, like, why should he be going 6, 7, 8 picks after Brees Hall? Why should he be going almost a full round after Achan and guys like that? I think Kyron's really good. I do think people are hesitant on, like, well, is he going to be on the Rams beyond 2025? And there's a good chance that that he's not. So I get the hesitation, but I also think it's just great value for Kyron, who's, again, been the best running back over the last 2 years combined. In the 4th round, I'm a big fan of taking Rashee Rice here. He is slightly moving up now. You see him at the 409 here. I think he was a little bit closer to, now he's a little bit closer to the middle of the 4th round rather than the second half of it. And I imagine that's only going to keep going unless he gets suspended for like 4 or 5 games, then maybe that brings him down a little bit. But I'm a big fan of Rashee Rice here. You know, I was a little bit hesitant on after his first year. But then he started to drop in value to where now he's actually a really good value. Like Rashee Rice, you know, we know what he did his rookie year, especially that second half. He came out this year on fire. He had 7 for 103, 5 for 75 and a touchdown, 12 for 110 and a touchdown. And then he busted up his knee. Now, that is a concern, the injury to his knee and things like that. So, you know, we have to see how he's going to come along and things like that. But I think he can bounce back. He's obviously tied to a really good quarterback. Their offense could just be better. I wish we would have seen Rashee Rice with Xavier Worthy developing and, you know, Pacheco healthy and all those things. So do the Chiefs add another weapon somewhere potentially, whether it's a tight end, running back, wide receiver? It could be anyone really. But I just really like Rashee Rice here. You know, I think he should be more going in the range of guys like a Garrett Wilson, JSN, Ladd McConkey, rather than going next to guys like T. Higgins, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, who are guys that I like, but I just think, you know, Rashee Rice as just going into his 3rd year is a very good player that we should be taking advantage of his current ADP in startups, in my opinion. In the 5th round, I'm going with Bryce Young. And a lot of these guys, you know, I'm not saying I like these guys more than other players next to them, especially for 2025, right? Like, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, who are guys that could skyrocket in value? That's what I'm always looking for in Dynasty, is like, I tend to lean towards the guys that I like, of course, but also guys that I think, hey, if things go right, they can skyrocket in value versus other players around them that potentially, you know, that won't happen for them, right? Like Dak Prescott is a good example. Like, even if Dak Prescott has a top 7 season next year, because of his age, which I think is a little ridiculous, but because of his age, he's going to be capped at how far he can go up the rankings, how valuable he can be, because we've seen Dak forever. He's over 30 years old, things like that, right? Just look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff this year. You know, Jared Goff was what, like the QB. I think he was the QB 7 in total points this year. I'm just going to double check that. The QB 6 in total points this year, and the QB 7 in points per game. Jared Goff was. He was literally a top 6 quarterback this year. Go look at where the community has Jared Goff ranked. They have Jared Goff ranked as the QB 21. Does that really make sense? No. That's a whole nother story to get into, though. Like overinflating age just because they're just, you know, over 30 and their age starts with a 3. That being said, we do have to take that into account as dynasty players. Bryce Young, to me, if he comes out, given his season after he got benched, how awesome it was. He averaged, I think, just as many points as CJ Stroud did his rookie year, and we were all in love with CJ Stroud. Given how well he finished with his after getting benched in 2024 last year, Bryce Young, if he comes out the first month and looks like he did in that stretch, he's going to start climbing up the rankings very, very fast because it's a young quarterback, number 1 overall pick, who's finally putting it together. Maybe the Panthers get their offense starts coming together a little bit and all of that stuff. But Bryce Young, to me, is a guy. He's at the bottom of a tier of guys, and generally, you know, I like to tier down. If I have a quarterback that's at the top of a tier, I like to trade down to the quarterback near the bottom of it and pick up extra assets. Also in startups, you can get values this way. In startups, you can get values this way. And let me be completely honest with you. It's really hard to get quarterbacks in super flex leagues. Really hard to get quarterbacks in super flex leagues outside of the startup and rookie drafts. It's really hard to buy them. Even the guys that are kind of like, QB 15 to 20, those guys are hard to buy. They're probably the cheapest place you can get them is probably in the startup. So I'm a big fan of Bryce Young. I was telling people to buy low on him going into last year. That was a hit. I also think he can legitimately give you a rushing production because the guy runs like a 4.4, which is incredibly fast for a quarterback. So Bryce Young to me is a good pick. And I one last thing before we move on. I think about like CJ Stroud's season, and I'm not even trying to hate on CJ Stroud at all, but like if we reverse things, right? Like if we reverse things for Bryce Young, if he was bad if he was good in year one and bad, and if he went the CJ Stroud route, right? Where would Bryce Young be ranked? If he came out his rookie year and looked like what CJ Stroud did and, led his team to a winning record and then kind of had a down year, would we still be ranking Bryce Young pretty high? I don't know. Just a question there. You guys can let me know in the chat. Round 6, Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle to me is a player that, again, I'm always going to be excited to buy low on Jalen Waddle. People, including myself, people have this little bit of a mental block when it comes to the wide receiver 2s on teams. It's like, man, you're not even the best wide receiver on your team. And I think that affects people and how they value them. But Jalen Waddle is going near the mid to the end of the 6th round. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he's still going around there, but closer to the end of it. Jalen Waddle, like here's the story of Jalen Waddle's career, right? So far, he came out his first year, and he was awesome as a rookie, right? He set the single season reception record for a rookie, caught 100 passes, over 1,000 yards. Then Mike McDaniel came, and he was awesome. Like he completely changed the offense. He went from 9.8 yards per reception to 18.1, but put up over 1,350 yards and 8 touchdowns on 75 catches. 2023, where he was beat up a lot, still put up very similar catch numbers to 2022. It's just the yards per reception went down and the touchdowns went down. That being said, he missed 3 games. So he actually would have been right on pace with his 2022 season. And then 2024 comes, and obviously the numbers don't look good. He missed 2 games. He had 58 catches for 744 yards. His production with Tua, though, was, I believe, over 80 catches, over 1,100 yards, and the touchdowns were still lacking. That's an area maybe of concern. But with Tua on the field, with Waddle and Tua together on the field, it was like 9 games. They would have had a 17-game pace of like 80 catches, over 1,100 yards, very similar numbers to the last 2 years. So I think Waddle's still a very good value. He's still very, very young. Not very, very young, but he's still only 26 years old. And he'll be 26 basically for the entire year. So I'm a big Jalen Waddle guy, and there's also a good chance that maybe Tyreek Hill's falling off a little bit and Waddle becomes more of the focal point of the offense. So I think it's just really good value. It's very, very easy for Waddle if he has a good month, good 6 weeks to him to really start climbing up the rankings. Very, very easy for him to do that. In the 7th round, I still like Mark Andrews going all the way at the end of the 7th round. And honestly, he's now what I'm looking at here, he's going more in the beginning of the 8th round. So anywhere from the end of the 7th to the beginning of the 8th. If you feel like you want to take a tight end in this range, then I'm still a fan of getting Mark Andrews. I don't know why Mark Andrews is this far down compared to like Dalton Kincaid is going almost 20 picks before Mark Andrews. And that doesn't really make sense to me. Despite his bad season, Mark Andrews, that is, despite his bad season, he finished still as the tight end 5 in total points and the tight end 7 in points per game. And that's with his horrendous start. He started off the year, the first 4 weeks, he had less than 10 fantasy points in half PPR. In the first 4 weeks, he had less than 10 fantasy points. From that point on, the dude was awesome. From that point on, from week 5 onwards, Mark Andrews was great. He averaged 11.7 half PPR points per game, which is really, really good. That's really good for a tight end. He led all tight ends in touchdowns. And by the way, I know I know he was injured last year. Before he got injured last year, if you take out the game where he left early, he was the tight end 1 in half PPR, more than Laporta, more than Kelsey. So, like, are we that worried about his age? Tight ends can generally go a little bit longer. Are we really that worried about his age? Are we docking him because he dropped the pass, the 2-point conversion catch in the playoffs? Okay, if you want to be upset as a Ravens fan, sure. But, like, that doesn't really affect us. They're not going to move on from him. This team wants to win a Super Bowl. They have Derrick Henry maybe for one more year. Why would you move on from Mark Andrews? So, is he going to put up the season he did a few years ago where he had like 1,300 total yards? Probably not. But is he going to be a top 6, 7 tight end? Absolutely. He absolutely is. And he's going as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's going as looks like about tight end 9 in startup drafts. He's going, there's some drafts where Kyle Pitts goes over Mark Andrews, and that just doesn't make sense to me. So if you're taking a tight end in this range, rather than kind of reaching on Kincaid 20 picks earlier, give me Mark Andrews, almost 2 rounds later. I'll take the value there. It's like, would you rather have Jalen Waddle and Mark Andrews, which is a realistic possibility right now, or would you rather have Dalton Kincaid and Jerry Jeudy? Give me the Waddle and Mark Andrews side. Easy. In the 8th round, I went with Ricky Pearsall. He's going early 8th as well. I think Ricky Pearsall is a very good player. I think I'm not quite sure what the ceiling is, but he's on the perfect offense to have a ceiling. Deebo Samuel is seemingly going to be off the 49ers. I don't think the 49ers necessarily need to go out and get the wide receiver, draft a wide receiver. Maybe they do, but I don't think it's necessarily a priority when you have Juwan Jennings. Hopefully Ayuk's back. You still have Kittle, McCaffrey, and then Ricky Pearsall, who you took in the first round last year. This was kind of their plan, right? We're going to take Ricky. I feel like this was the Niners' plan. Let's take a receiver that we like in 2024 when you think, oh, Niners don't need a receiver. They're planning a year ahead, right? And so we saw Ricky Pearsall a little bit. Now, unfortunately, he had the shooting incident and just didn't really do anything until kind of the end of the year. But we saw 2 good games back-to-back against the Lions and the Cardinals. 8 for 141 and a touchdown, 6 for 69 and a touchdown. I think Ricky Pearsall is a good player. I think he's on the perfect offense to maximize his ceiling. And I think especially if Brandon Ayuk's going to miss some time, like Pearsall could be, the number 2 option for the 49ers for the first month of the season. So I like this value here. And again, very easy for Pearsall to move up compared to other guys like Michael Pittman or Brian Robinson or Chris Godwin that are going around Pearsall. If Pearsall has a big year, he goes from you're taking him in the 8th round to we're now drafting him in round 5 next year in startups. That's a very realistic possibility because he's a first round pick going into his 2nd year tied to a really good offense. Round 9. I went with Justin Fields here. I went with Justin Fields now. Again, this is more for, are you doing a startup right now at this moment? This could all change in a month, right? Depending on how free agency goes. But Justin Fields is going in the 10th round, right? He's going in the 10th round now. Now I'm seeing him more in the 11th round. He's going. I have him here as the 9th round. He's going sometimes even in the early 10th round. So again, this is for super flex, but Justin Fields, like if he gets another year somewhere as a starter, is going to be valuable for fantasy football because of his rushing ability, right? Because of his rushing ability. So, I think there's value in taking a player, especially a quarterback in this range, who's like, man, if he gets a full season, Justin Fields could legitimately be a top 10 guy. He really could. Like, you just look at the numbers here, for his Steelers when he played this last year in the first 6 games. He started off kind of poorly, 11.9, 11.4, and then 19.4, 32, 15.9, 23.7 because of his rushing ability. So is there a chance that the Steelers, run it back with Fields? Maybe. Again, this could all change in a month, but if you're drafting right now, I don't mind going for Fields because, again, like the value that he can give you, even if it's just 1 year as a starter, is going to be pretty good in startups. In round 10, I went with Tony Pollard. I was a little bit shocked that Tony Pollard is actually this far down the list. He's going like anywhere from late 9th to early 10th round, all the way to maybe mid 10th round. Tony Pollard was good last year. Like he was good last year until he got hurt and maybe a little bit overshadowed by Tajay Spears. But like Tony Pollard was an RB2. He was an RB2 this year. He was the Titans guy. Like they paid him and then they came out and were basically like, it's mostly going to be you. You're going to be the guy. This is his touches. This is his carries the first half of the season. 16, 17, 6, 22, 17, 16, 20, 28. And he was also basically getting 2 to 4 catches every game as well. Right? Like, and Tajay Spears was kind of an afterthought. And then he got beat up at the end, Tony Pollard. He got beat up in week 16, in the fantasy playoffs, missed week 17 in the fantasy championship, and then had 22 carries in week 18, but I do think he was a bit beat up. So I don't know. Again, I feel fairly confident. Titans are one of the only teams where I feel fairly confident they're not going to draft the running back in the first 3 rounds. Because they have Pollard, who they just paid, and they have a pretty good, 1B or RB2 in Tajay Spears. So I just like the value for Pollard. Like this is a 1-year kind of move here. But I think Pollard can still be an RB2 for a hopefully improved offense. I think he's getting a little bit disrespected in my opinion, where, yardage wise, he's been basically the same the last 3 years. His big year in 2022, 1378. 2023, when he was a disappointment, total yards, 1316. 50, 60 total yards than his big year. And then this year, 1317. Right? Still catching the ball 40 times, basically every year since 2021. And the big thing is the touchdowns. In 2022, he had 12 touchdowns. If they're an improved offense, he could get 8 to 12 touchdowns. That's for sure. In the 11th round, we got 2 more rounds that we're going over. Another Titan here, it's Calvin Ridley. And I didn't feel great about this one. We are getting in these later rounds, right, where it's like it's getting a little bit ugly, right? That's just the nature of the later round picks. It's getting a little bit ugly here. But I don't mind Calvin Ridley in the beginning of the 11th round. Is he getting up there in age already? Yes. I think he's already 30 years old, he's going to be 30 years old. He's already 30 years old. So this is going to be his year 30 season. But if you look at Calvin Ridley from that point where he had essentially that goose egg, there was that game, October 13th against the Colts, 8 targets, 0 catches. He had 1 carry for 9 yards. If you take it from that point where he actually made it up, he was, basically saying what the hell is going on, essentially. Calvin Ridley was. If you take it from that point on, I think Calvin Ridley was pretty damn good. And I'm just going to double check this. That was 0.9 points that he had. So from week 7 onwards, Calvin Ridley was the wide receiver 18 overall. That's pretty good. To get a wide receiver 2, a mid to low end wide receiver 2 in the 11th round of your startup, a guy that is going to be there. There should even be a better quarterback situation, potentially. I shouldn't say there should be, but there potentially is going to be a better quarterback situation with a guy like a Cam Ward. We'll see if they do, but with a guy like Cam Ward, and he did all that with Will Levis. I still think Ridley's talented. Is he an alpha guy? Maybe not. But I still think Ridley's quite talented, and I think he could have another wide receiver 2/3 season And, you just kind of compare him to guys going around him, Darnell Mooney, Dallas Goddard, Braylon Allen, Marvin Mims. It's like, are you really that excited about those guys? Or do you want to just, give me Calvin Ridley, who I think can produce? And then the last round we're going over is round 12. I like taking a shot on Jalen Wright. I like taking a shot on him. He's going early to mid round 12. And I think, the Dolphins, the first 2 years with Mike McDaniel were very we're using multiple running backs. And then this year, for whatever reason, they're just like, no, we're just using Achane. Was that because Jalen Wright wasn't ready? Raheem Mostert just wasn't good. What was the reason? I don't 100% know. I do think they get back a little bit more to using multiple running backs, and Jalen Wright seems to be the prime candidate to be that number 2 guy on a. And again, number 2 guy that's still going to produce on a team that's going to use their number 2 guy. Hopefully, just look at Achane and Mostert in 2023. I'm not saying they're going to be quite that level. But in terms of their usage, I think it's going to be very similar. And Jalen Wright just kind of just fits the Dolphins, which is why I was a little bit surprised he wasn't used more. Like those outside zone stretch runs where you can use your vision and speed to really hit those home runs. That's what the Dolphins like to do. That's what he was successful at, in my opinion, Jalen Wright, in college at Tennessee. So I like Jalen Wright here too, just because of the potential of man, what if this guy just hits? If he hits, he's winning leagues type of player. If Achane gets hurt and Jalen Wright is the next guy up to get a bulk of the carries, he's winning leagues, assuming the Dolphins get back to, what they were in 2022 and 2023. You just don't get that with a lot of guys going in this range. You got Stephon Diggs, Jalen Coker, Juwan Jennings is a solid pick here. I thought about him. Cole Kmet, Quentin Johnston, Rashad Bateman, Troy Franklin. These are the guys going around here. It's okay, do any of those guys strike you as guys of if they hit, they are going to win you leagues? In my opinion, no. If you want to argue that, sure. But those guys are probably solid contributors for some of them, but that's about it. Jalen Wright to me is potential league winner here. So that is it for my favorite picks in rounds 2 through 12 of a Dynasty startup. We will be doing these probably every couple of months just to see how the climate's changing, where values are, and look out on Saturday for my least favorite pick in rounds 2 through 12. Appreciate everyone. Again, like and subscribe, join the Discord, and I'll see you all in the very next video.